We've got Chris Cuomo asking some very key questions here. It's a great video. Hope you guys enjoy. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, leave a comment if nothing else. Until next video, remain safe. May God bless us all.
We're going to start on the Idaho murder and some new developments that give better shape to what authorities are dealing with, okay? We have a good set of people to help explain and inform tonight. We got our man in Moscow, Brian Entin. He's got the latest. He did a great special this weekend. I hope you saw it. If not, get to social media and try and find the clips. Really, really good insight into the people, the players, and the possibilities. We also have, to understand the latest, forensic scientist Larry Kobalinski and private investigator T.J. Ward. T.J., it's good to have you with us. We also want your calls,
Thank you.
okay? What does and does not make sense to you in the reporting that you're about to hear, what you've already heard? Hit us with questions and any better information you may have read or heard and your take. You were very helpful the last time, and I appreciate that. 1-844-968-7720. All right? So first, I want to address a fundamental point of confusion, okay? I keep reading and hearing this theme of why isn't there more information coming out? There are only two potential reasons, okay? Despite all the local, state, and federal resources, authorities are still nowhere after close to 3 weeks. Well, that's one possibility. Or the second one is they don't want to share what they know with you, with me, with us. The second is much more likely correct as a matter of fact and practice. And also remember, it can be a combination. But I know there's being a lot made of who's been cleared and was that right, was that wrong. Remember, the designation cleared sounds like it means something. It means nothing. Cleared today, cuffed tomorrow, okay? If the evidence supports the action. Cleared means nothing other than the immediate disposition of a particular individual in an overall investigation. It is very common in a developing investigation for police to want to keep anyone they may want to question in the dark about what they know. They don't want to be fed back what they're putting out. They want the nuances. They want people to be able to give their own version. And there may be someone out there they don't want to spook into making a run. So take the silence as a non-factor for now. Despite the noise online, despite the noise in some of the coverage. Now, here's another quickie. This quote, there are more questions than answers. That's about as annoying a cliche as it gets in any investigation. Of course there are more questions than answers. It's always that way until the answers come. This situation is no different to this point. Now, there are two buckets of information that we have tonight to add to the mix. One comes from police efforts in the area and other information. Then we have, which information, I mean, not necessarily facts, okay? Perspective, questions, concerns, largely from family members. Now, from police, there is obvious interest that seems to go beyond simple completeness in the investigation in the block of time between when two of the victims, Zana Kernodle and her boyfriend Ethan Chapin, went to a fraternity party and then returned home. 9 p.m. estimated arrival at the party, 1:45 a.m. or so back at the house. Why? What's so interesting about that block? These two were victims. Well, one, you have the fact that the block is an unknown, and you always want to track down everything. That's the simple answer. The more intriguing one is that police may believe this could be when these two victims were contacted by the would-be killer, meaning met him on the way to the party, met him at the party, met him after the party, met him on the way home. Consistent with this curiosity, police asking locals for any camera footage showing movement, activity, or not of the route that the two likely took home from the frat home to their residence, okay? Now, why isn't this very, very important? Well, here are the reasons to discount it as an avenue. Kaylee Gonsalves. Brian Entin has reporting that her injuries may have been more brutal, worse. Why, if that's true? Is that because of simple circumstance, where she was in the house, how she reacted to the attack? Or was she especially targeted. Remember, we're dealing with certain odd or mysterious aspects to this. The first one is that some were spared in this. The killer didn't kill everybody. We're not sure how many other people were in the house or why, but the killer likely made choices. Raises the question, choices based on what? There's reporting that Kaylee may have had a stalker. Police have not confirmed that, but reportedly people interviewed say Kaylee mentioned it. Did she mention it to her family? To the school? Now, another one, the murder weapon. As far as we know, none recovered. There is reporting that they believe it was a large fixed blade knife, large fixed blade knife. What could that be? It could be a kitchen knife. We know that all the victims were stabbed to death, that it was very bloody. The coroner says that he had never seen anything like it. Now, we add to that. Now, why are they showing that? That's not a bad picture. You should put that back up. Why that kind of knife? We all know there are like so many fixed blades knives. The most common one in a house would be not that, but it'd be a kitchen knife. But why is that there? Okay, we have additional information that some of the locals are saying that they've been asked by police for any sales of a specific kind of fixed blade knife called a K-bar knife. Okay, you may have heard of this. It's a popular weapon that was issued to Marines and troops circa World War II. The name K-bar, what does that mean? It's a bizarre name. It comes from a story from a trapper who wrote the company supposedly many, many years ago about how he killed a bear after his weapon misfired with the knife. And he was like saying how useful the knife had been. K-bar, K-A-B-A-R, is a derivative of the way he phrased that in his letter, supposedly, kill a bear. K-bar comes from kill a bear. Now, the speculation that you may have heard or read, I will now discount. The idea that because it may have been a K-bar knife, we don't know, but going on that, that allows speculation that the killer is likely military. Absolutely not a fact. Why? Is it possible? Yes, but that doesn't mean anything. The knives are widely available, okay? This is a K-bar knife, okay? I had it in my garage, all right? It says USMC, military, right, United States Marine Corps. This is a K-bar knife, all right? I have one. You can get them. I don't even remember where I got this, to be honest. Now, what it tells us is what? This is a very serious, heavy, and dangerous weapon, okay? It's sharp. It's very, very dull. That's why I'm holding it this way. It's not the proper way to hold a knife. It's not the point. And I don't want to keep showing the way a potential weapon. But my point is this. If that's the kind of weapon that was used, it does make sense that this was a very brutal scene and that it was very bloody. And it leads to an understanding of how one person, we don't know if it were one or more, a man or a woman, but if it were one man, could one person have pulled this off? Yes. With a weapon like this and people asleep? Absolutely. Would have been very bloody? Yes. Absolutely would be the kind of scene that the coroner is describing, that the victims could have been easily overwhelmed. And that he or she, they had never seen anything like this before. Last point of confusion that I really want to talk about tonight with the experts. The actions of the roommates or whoever else was in the house in the aftermath. How did they not hear anything? What happened when they did wake up? Did they call friends to come over before contacting police? What is the part about someone reporting someone unconscious? Was that a misapprehension or a misunderstanding about one of the victims? Or is it that one of the roommates passed out from what they saw in the house and that someone else was reporting that roommate who survived as having been unconscious? Those are the reports that we need to suss out, that multiple people were speaking with the police, in addition to the remaining roommates. So let's see what else we know and where it leads. Locals also report that police have been asking lots of questions, trying to figure things out, so it's a very active investigation, and that's good news for the families involved in the entire community. Let's bring in NewsNation's Brian Enton. who had exclusive interviews with Kaylee Gonsalves' family this weekend. Really a well-done special. Really helped me understand the context of the questions. And, of course, he is on the scene in Moscow, Idaho. Renowned forensic scientist Dr. Larry Kobolinski and private investigator T.J. Ward. Brian, first of all, did I lay it out basically as you understand it?
Yeah, you laid it out perfectly. I think you made a really good point, Chris, when you said we don't know what's happening behind the scenes. Yes, investigators are basically silent, but they may have a lot of information or they might not have a lot of information. We just don't know right now. Yes, the families are getting frustrated. You can understand what they're going through, the misery they're in. It's a nightmare, but that doesn't mean that the police aren't working hard behind the scenes.
The families absolutely should be frustrated. They are in pain. They want answers. They want to get their loved ones home and give them burial for closure. You and I have seen this time and time again, and they have no need for forgiveness. They should be pushing everything, and that's right. Something else happened that you reported very well, Brian. The authorities got jammed up and had cross-communication lines about, whether this was targeted or not. They said things, they expanded them, they pulled it back. Somebody else came out, they had to say it was miscommunication. So they got burned early on. That's another reason that people get quiet in an investigation, right, Brian?
Yeah, the past week was a bit of a communication, issue. Initially, they said that it was a target attack. Then the prosecutor told me when I sat down with him that they weren't really sure, that he didn't believe the victims were targeted, but the house may have been targeted. Then the next day, police walked that back and said, no, we have an internal miscommunication between the detectives and the prosecutor, and we do believe it's targeted. And I don't think any of that helped the situation with the families because it just led to more frustration.
Larry Kobolinski, the idea that it may have been a K-bar or other heavy military hunting style fixed blade knife, that does shed some understanding on why the coroner is floored by the scene. Yes? Explain.
Without a doubt. One thing that we haven't seen yet are the autopsy reports. And the autopsy reports are going to describe each and every blow from that knife. And from that information, the coroner is going to be able to say the knife is either serrated or no, it's straight edge. The coroner will be even able to say the width of the blade. Is it 2 inches? Is it 1.5 inches? Is it 3 inches? What they cannot do is tell the length of the blade because, once you put the knife in, it can go different distances. You can't really measure that in a body. But there is some basic information that you can have. And I think that's why the police are focusing their attention on a type of knife based upon the width of the blade and whether it's serrated or straight edge.
TJ, you've seen so many fact patterns like this that have confusing aspects to it early on, especially. The one that I can't get my hands around yet is what happened the next morning with the other roommates who survived. Why they survived, why they weren't targeted, we don't know, whether it was just dumb luck or happenstance or choice. But the call, someone's unconscious, how did they get in? Did they call other people or friends to come over? How do you understand that part of this?
Well, you really can't understand until we start getting some information from law enforcement. And I know the family is totally frustrated. Yesterday, there was information that came out that they wanted to hire a private investigator. And why I guess to say that I'm in the spotlight now. And I think it would be a good idea. It might ease some information that people that talk to witnesses and all that talk to law enforcement may be more willing to talk to a private investigator because they're not law enforcement and be able to gather information and be able to share that with the family and to give them some closure about what's happening with law enforcement. I got 48 years of law enforcement behind my belt, and I can tell you they're not going to share information until they have an exact person or exact information down to the fact that they're going to get out in the media and discuss this or discuss it with the family. So it's a matter of
Absolutely.
time. There's a lot of there's a lot of information that's having to be gathered. We don't have one victim, we have 4 victims. And then there are other characters that were in the house and people in the house. And again, we don't know if this was a man or a woman or whatever. We don't know.
Right.
It could have been a distracted housewife or somebody that was jealous or whatever. So we don't know, because I've heard a lot of talk about this man and this man. It may not be a man. It may be a woman.
Right.
But we don't know at this point. But again, I've reached out to the family and told them I'm available. I have 2 good homicide detectives that are retired here from Atlanta and that work with me, and we'd be more than happy to get in here and start pulling pieces together. And if we learn something that's new and credible, we'll turn it over to law enforcement. But I think it would help the family quite a bit that they know they have somebody that they can trust and somebody on their side that can help them and move forward on their behalf.
And the one thing that you know very well, and in fact everybody on the screen right now understands, that may be new for people at home, all these families want, of course they want answers. They want their babies home. They want their loved ones home, to have them, to bury them, and to have that moment and closure. It's very, very important in these situations. And the time between when that happens and now is an eternity for them. And you have to appreciate that pain in everything that transpires.